In today's video, we have lots of NHL news and rumors to take a look at with a heavy focus on some Montreal Canadiens rumors. Could we possibly see a trade with the Jets regarding McGroarty? They're certainly not the only team in the mix. We're also looking at the latest involving teams like St. Louis and Columbus. Plus, could Ivan Demidov end up joining the Habs this fall? Right away, we'll see what the latest intel tells us about that possible situation, and could they even have a reunion with former captain Max Pacioretty? We're going to take a look at all that, plus some other trade talk around the Vegas Golden Knights, St. Louis Blues. Plus, we have updates on Hockey Canada's brain trust for the upcoming international tournament, some signings including in Toronto, Buffalo, Minnesota, and also some updates on the latest arbitration hearings for the remaining restricted free agents who have filed for arbitration. All that and more coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have lots to talk about here today. Lots of Canadiens content, lots of things have been popping up in the last day or so regarding the Montreal Canadiens that I wanted to discuss in today's video, but certainly lots of other news around other teams and other league items here as well. So let's get started first with some arbitration hearings. We'd finally learned some key details that we know that the NHLPA, who looks after the arbitration hearings on behalf of its players, normally releases all the dates ahead of time. Once all the arbitration filing period is passed and all the players that have filed have received their dates, they usually make all that public. This year, for some reason, they chose not to. I don't understand why, but they were taking a different approach, trying a different philosophy, they said. And while we're kind of relying on NHL insiders to get the scoop and kind of get this out, so Puckpedia posted this earlier. Puckpedia, of course, is kind of our new version of Cap Friendly, along with a few other websites that are doing a really good job at providing us with those resources as well. So there's not only Puckpedia, but just a quick shout out to capwages.com as well. Both sites are doing a really good job, but Puckpedia has been around a little bit longer. It certainly has a little bit more connections, and you got some good info for us here today on the arbitration cases. So there's 4 remaining ARB cases, because we did have another couple of these guys that got settled here in the last couple of days. But July 29th is the next one that's currently scheduled, which is Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen. So that's a key date, of course, between the Luukkonen and the Sabres. So that still gives another 6 days between now and then. So could we see them resolve this on their own? It's possible. So far, we've only seen Spencer Stastny of the Predators have actually go through and have that hearing. That took place yesterday. We'll most likely get the results probably tomorrow. So we'll see. But the 29th of July is Luukkonen. The 31st of July is Kirill Marchenko in Columbus. Of course, we talked yesterday about Marchenko being kind of a little bit upset and unhappy about the fact that he says he hasn't received a real legit offer from them yet. Hasn't spoken once to new GM Don Waddell, and just was a little bit frustrated with the process and how slow it was moving. So the 31st is the key date for him. Oliver Wahlstrom of the New York Islanders is August the 1st. So August 1st, key date there. Islanders do not have a lot of cap space, but might be able to figure this out. There's a lot of suspicion, too, that Wahlstrom could still be moved. And now, of course, when players end up in arbitration, there is some limitations on trades. So I would suspect that if the Islanders really do intend on trying to move them, that they'll either trade them before that or get them signed and traded or something. I would be surprised if that one does go to ARB. But we'll see. And then August 4th, last but not least, is the biggest one of all. Marty Necas of the Carolina Hurricanes. All indications are right now that he is likely going to sign with Carolina and not be traded. It's not 100% given, but given all the other changes to that team, the Hurricanes do want to do everything they can to kind of work around that relationship and retain him. So we'll see. But that's a big date for all of those players. Obviously, they want to avoid that process if at all possible. Now, so like I said, some other guys did sign today. We got another case that's been avoided here. The Buffalo Sabres avoided arbitration and have come to terms with Beck Malenstein. So he gets a 2-year deal at $1.35 million per season. So based on Malenstein's projection and playing time and offensive output, where he plays in the lineup, that's actually pretty good value. I know based on AFP Analytics, they do a lot of projections for contracts every year, and they're usually very, very accurate. They had him projected just to make a smidge more than that. I think it was 1.4 or 1.4 something. I can't remember exactly what the number that they had, but it's a little bit below, which is good. The Toronto Maple Leafs have also come to terms with Connor Dewar. Of course, he was acquired at the trade deadline this past season. He signs a 1-year deal in Toronto at $1.18 million. That also, according to AFP Analytics, is a fair value, a little bit below what they were projecting for him. So, again, a couple of good signings there. And the Minnesota Wild also came to terms with another RFA, Graham Clark. Clark gets a 1-year contract. It's a 2-way deal, $800K to NHL, $105 at the American Hockey League level. So some more signings taking place there today. We got news out of Hockey Canada today as well. Hockey Canada has announced some more additions to their management staff for the upcoming Four Nation Face-Off International Tournament that will take place in February 2025, as well as the Olympic Games in February of 2026 over in Italy. Of course, we know Doug Armstrong is the general manager. Julien Brisebois of the Tampa Bay Lightning has now been named assistant general manager. This will be his debut with Hockey Canada in a managerial capacity. So Brisebois, obviously, multiple Stanley Cups to his name. Obviously inherited a good team in Tampa, but also did a lot of work with Steve Yzerman when he was AGM before taking over the full GM role after Yzerman's departure there. So I know sometimes I feel like he doesn't really get a lot of credit for those teams. And you can make an argument that, yes, a lot of the work to set up that team for success was done before he was GM, but he was still part of their team and part of their management team, and certainly, deserves, I think, a good amount of the credit. So Brisebois has done a good job. We know he's not afraid to be aggressive and, ruthless, you could say, like some of the top GMs around the league. So Brisebois has done a good job. Not surprised there. They've also added Kyle Dubas, now the Pittsburgh Penguins, of course, going into his second campaign with the Pens. He will be on their management team and will have the role of director of player personnel. A little surprised on Dubas. I mean, he's been around the league long enough. Of course, he was an AGM with the Leafs for a while, then a GM with the Leafs, then now president and GM with the Penguins. So it's not even an experience standpoint, because obviously for a younger man in hockey management, he's got to start it real early. But at the same time, if you look around the NHL, there's a lot of GMs that are Canadian. And lots of options, not only GMs, but AGMs, etc., that could be a part of this team. And Dubas just hasn't had the success. I mean, again, you say what you want about his time in Toronto, but it wasn't, considering what they had for a roster, it was, one playoff series win in 8 years. Obviously he wasn't there the entire time as GM, but still, I don't know. I'm a little surprised, to be honest. Even Steve Yzerman, for example, longtime NHL GM. Maybe other guys didn't necessarily want this role either, but Dubas is, to me, just a little bit of a surprise, given all the experience around hockey management available to Hockey Canada throughout the NHL. Lots of other guys that are older, more experienced, and had more success, but Dubas will be well surrounded at the very least. Is not going to be making all the key decisions by himself, so it's not like he's, given too much responsibility there. But he will be. I guess it's good to have a younger manager do get some good, valuable experience as well for future, because obviously at this point, I'm sure he intends on being around for a while. But lots of experience for Hockey Canada. So Brisebois and Dubas now part of that team. Matvei Michkov is officially in the United States, officially in Philadelphia. I'll show a couple of pictures here. The Flyers shared earlier today. We got pictures of Danny Briere and Keith Jones picking him up at the airport. He's already been around, of course, meeting other people of the organization. Of course, Michkov was officially released from his contract with their KHL club near the end of June, signed his contract to start with the Flyers on July 1st. And, now he has officially arrived. We had seen some reports back, when was it, back 3 or 4 days ago, I think it was, about him attending some other small-scale little tournament or something in Russia. He was asked about, the Flyers know you're here. He's like, I don't even know if they know anything about this or not. There was people talking as he breached his contract. I think that was a big overreaction, but obviously Michkov is fine. Nothing happened from that. I don't think he broke any rules, I could tell. And, I would suspect they probably did know. And you know what? A lot of those times, too, especially given his age and, the fact that he's still learning to become more fluent in English and everything. Is probably a lot of that communication is probably done through his agent too, right? So he may not know everything the team knows or doesn't know. So I think it was just kind of blown out of proportion. But either way, he's landed in Philly. He's with the team, which is great news. Obviously, the team's very excited, hoping to see him join the club and have a phenomenal rookie season. So at least he's officially here now. Now, could another top Russian star that a lot of people were hoping would make the NHL sooner than later arrive ahead of schedule like Michkov? And now we're talking about Ivan Demidov, who was drafted 5th overall by the Montreal Canadiens here in 2024. There's been a lot of talk about him. And of course, like I mentioned at the top of the video, there's certainly some Habs speculation I want to take a look at. A few other teams here that we're going to talk about in the mix in the rumors section of the video as well, including Winnipeg, St. Louis, Columbus, and Vegas. But could Ivan Demidov be a Hab as early as this fall? The answer is maybe, but to be honest, I think it's unlikely. But could he be in North America, though? And I think it's possible. Now, the whole thing here is with the KHL club, SKA St. Petersburg. They're expected, it hasn't been announced yet, but they're expected to sign Evgeny Kuznetsov to a 4-year contract. So we talked before how that could be good for a guy like Demidov to have a recent top NHL player join that Russian team. Maybe hard to say if they'd be line mates or what have you, but just to have that level of experience coming over from the NHL could very well be a positive impact on him for this crucial year of development. But you could also make an argument that some people think, well, maybe if they sign Kuznetsov like they're expected to, could that maybe eliminate them having a spot for Demidov on the roster? Okay, I don't know everything about this team, so it's hard to say with certainty. I suppose it's possible, but I will say that I do know, because I've seen it enough from following this league and Russian prospects, that they don't like to give a lot of playing time to these Russian prospects at a young age. They really don't. I mean, Michkov is a prime example of that. Therefore, it's hard to rule out the possibility that Demidov would not be given a big role and could he maybe end up wanting a different path? It's certainly not out of the question. Now, of course, we know that the KHL recently restructured how they're not part of the Russian Federation anymore. So, there's a different process for getting players to kind of, undo their contracts and head to North America. I think there's a fee that can be paid. Usually they want compensation to release players. So as far as I know, I don't think that fee can be paid by the NHL club. I'm pretty sure they can't be, but that's something I'm still trying to figure out and confirm. But at the end of the day, here's the thing. If you look at the fact that he played in the lower level Russian league, the MHL, right? So the Russian, down, kind of like the Russian junior league, right? Had a real solid year, got drafted really high, created a lot of hype for himself and all that, right? So if he can't make the KHL next year, if they don't have a roster spot for him, going from that lower level junior league directly to the NHL, that's a massive step. I mean, the KHL is not considered to be as high level as the NHL. Now, do they get a lot of players that have gone back and forth? Sure. But it's a much completely different league. It's not the same level at all. Yes, it's pro. Yes, some of these guys have NHL experience. Yes, some of these guys are still very good players. But it really isn't the same. I've seen some people say that him jumping from that lower level KHL or Russian league to the NHL would be the equivalent of going from a BCHL team or somebody's not even major junior in Canada to directly to the NHL, or a USHL club player to go right to the NHL. Now that's been done. You saw Jack Hughes do that, but look at Jack Hughes in his rookie year. It was not good. There was a point in the first year or so of Jack Hughes' existence as an NHL player where people were calling him a bust early on. It looked like it was not going to go well. Now, of course, he's since matured. He's gotten a little stronger, has adapted to play. Now he's a really solid top-tier player, but it took a while. So, it's probably not in the greatest thing for Demidov's development to have that kind of path, to be completely honest. If you can't play in the KHL, to go right to the NHL, I don't think it's wise. And in the past, the Montreal Canadiens have been kind of known for butchering development. Now, this is under the old regime. Too many players have been rushed, and it's not worked out. Like Alex Galchenyuk, prime example of that. They've had other prospects, the same thing. But that was more under the Marc Bergevin time. Obviously Ken Hughes and Jeff Gorton, I would hope we'll have a different approach here. Now, of course, we saw, with some of their other prospects that they certainly were not afraid to give them some time in the minors. Now, but could Ivan Demidov play in the AHL? If he's going to not play in the KHL, to me, that's the next most logical step. So he could still sign his ELC, could still make the jump to North America. He could be an option to play in Montreal, but I would think he would need to start in the AHL first. That would probably be best. Spend half a season down there. If you're dominating and you're doing really well, okay, call him up, give him a shot, see how it goes. Give him a small taste, and then, you can still send him back and forth because he doesn't require waivers, right? So to me, that makes the most sense. So we'll see, but there is some talk and some speculation that Demidov could make the jump to North America as early as this fall, that he may not have a roster spot, or that they may not want to give him enough ice time, that he's going to try to negotiate his way to North America like we saw Michkov do. But of course, Michkov's 1 year removed. So obviously, if this happens, I would hope we can kind of get rid of that whole Russian stigma about players not coming over, because clearly it's happening at a much faster pace than it used to. So that would be huge news for Montreal. Even if he didn't play in the NHL right away and they put him in the AHL, it's still he's still going to draw big crowds to the Laval team. It's going to be a huge boost for them. He's going to be right in their backyard so they can monitor his development a lot closer. He can still work a lot with the team staff and coaches, etc. I think it could be a huge development. So we're going to have to monitor Demidov's availability here in the coming months as the summer progresses into the beginning of next NHL and KHL season. So we'll see how that goes. Now, of course, with Montreal, though, it's also believed, like we know they're in a mix for Jets disgruntled forward Rutger McGroarty, the 2022 first rounder, would like a trade out of Winnipeg, which has not happened yet. The Habs thought they were getting close at the NHL draft. It did not happen. We're hearing now that there's certainly some talks picking up, and it's not just Montreal, though. Aaron Portzline of the covers the Jackets for The Athletic, was talking about them, and he says they're very much in a McGroarty as well. And he says then there was some talk that Columbus might be in on Askarov, the Russian goalie out of Nashville. He says that's not the case right now. But I've also seen reports about St. Louis being very much in a McGroarty with the potential offer of guys like Boldu and Dean. Now, some interesting prospects. I'm not sure how the Jets feel about those guys, but obviously, some players that might be intriguing to them. I don't know. We had heard before that, a big part of the offer to Winnipeg was reportedly Philip Masar, one of their young D, likely either Jordan Harris or Barron, I think was the other one, and then a pick. So also a good offer. I don't know what the Blues, or not the Blues, but the Jackets offer would be to Winnipeg Jets. I didn't see any speculation there, but they certainly do have lots of younger players and prospects and picks that could be something that they're looking for. Another quick note on Columbus. Aaron Portzline is also saying that Kent Johnson, who could also be part of that equation, likely to sign a 1-year deal, doesn't want to go a longer term right now because obviously he's doesn't really have the negotiating power because of the season. Last year wasn't the greatest for him. So expect Johnson to sign a 1-year deal. And another RFA in that team, Cole Sillinger, expected to most likely sign a multi-year deal. So we'll see. They'll probably be a longer-term bridge deal. But the Jackets definitely in a McGroarty, according to Portzline. So he said that joins St. Louis and Montreal, teams that we're aware of, trying to get this guy out of the Jets organization. So clearly it's hard to say which direction it's going to go. If the Habs or the Jets don't get what they want, they're going to hold on to him. He can go back to school in the fall and just kind of make him wait it out, essentially, with the hope that maybe something will change, either with the player's wants, needs, attitude, or the offer to get him. One of the two. But yeah, imagine if Montreal was able to bring in Demidov to at least get him, even if he plays in the A, and get some NHL games next year, and then you add McGroarty, like that would be major steps forward with this core group of forwards. Now, I've also seen some talk and speculation about could former Habs captain Max Pacioretty be in line for a reunion with them? Should the Habs consider signing him? He's currently a UFA. No home for Pacioretty to continue playing next year as of right now. And we don't know for sure that he's even going to play, but we also haven't heard any speculation that he's not planning to play. Of course, we know he went through a long stretch of missing the bulk of 2 years with back-to-back Achilles tendon injuries. But last year in Washington, the numbers are okay, but you can tell he's not the same player. I've seen this now. The Pacioretty to Habs, I haven't seen that from a connected NHL insider. That to me is more fans online talking about, should this be something that Montreal goes out and does? And to be honest, my answer is absolutely not. They have enough veterans there in Montreal that are underperforming as it is. Like, I know when it comes to certain players, not just the Habs, but all teams, there's obviously a little bit of nostalgia for fans. Players that they really loved when they were in their prime, maybe left, and now they like to get them back, and it's desirable. But I would steer away. He's not the same player at all. You've already got Josh Anderson. You've already got Brendan Gallagher. You've already got Yoel Armia. You've already got all these veteran guys, Dvorak, that are underperforming or not really worth their contracts. Yes, you need some veterans around, but you don't need another guy blocking a youngster from getting the good experience in the NHL for nostalgia purposes to do not much. Like, if they were short on veterans and they wanted to add another veteran to the mix to kind of provide that leadership and the experience that is important during a rebuild, I would say yes, absolutely. Good character guy, works hard, trying to come back. Like, obviously the old connection, I get it. But you've already got enough veterans that are not worth their contracts. Even if he signs 1 year league minimum, okay, maybe. But like, if you look at the effects of taking a roster spot, I would not recommend it at all. I'm not really sure if Pacioretty gets a contract. To be honest, I wouldn't be shocked if he had to go on a PTO if he wants to. He may not want to. I know one of his good best friends, Paul Stastny, last year ended up retiring. He was only being offered PTOs. He didn't want that. He's like, I want something guaranteed, or I'm just going to say I'm done. And I'm not sure, maybe Pacioretty's in the same boat or not. We'll have to wait and see where things go. But at the end of the day, should Montreal do it? I don't think so, but I'd love to know what you think in the comments. And lastly, Shea Theodore is another guy to watch too. Lots of talk about Vegas wanting to make a bold blockbuster move sometime before the season starts. We know they lost a fair bit in the offseason. We know they'd really like to add another major offensive weapon to that team. It looks as though, I've seen another article today suggesting that Theodore is likely to not be re-signed or extended in Vegas, is in his final year of his contract. It makes a lot of sense that they're not going to be able to do that. So I really feel like if Vegas pulls off a big trade, any offers that they're out there talking to teams about, that Theodore is going to be at the center of it. They obviously have other veteran guys that could be intriguing to teams as well, that could be part of that, or even some of their younger players too, for that matter. We know Vegas is not afraid to be aggressive and, to mortgage the future, because they only worry about today. So we'll see where that goes. Obviously, they lost some key players that they could not bring back. And as much as they have an intriguing blue line, they have a different, netminding tandem. They don't have as much offense up front. They'll still be a really good team, don't get me wrong. But I said, there's just a lot of people that think that Vegas is still going to pull off that blockbuster deal. Now, maybe it's not before the season starts. Vegas is one of those teams you got to watch all year round, because you just never know, right? Maybe they wait till the deadline. But when they do make that move, I think Theodore is the guy to go. So I just would keep an eye on him. Hard to say where things go from there. But let me know your thoughts on all today's news and rumors in the comments. We'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with all the news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.